Stackers, welcome to a live recording of the Stacky Benjamin Show Friday Roundtable Edition. I'm Joe. This is my buddy Doug over here, and we're gonna have a good time today talking 401k. So be a part of the show. Say hi in the comments. Tell us where you're from and take part. I know we're starting about 5 minutes earlier than it says on the screen, so we got a few people here already that showed up early.
Be a part of the show, except for in one way.
Yes. Do not.
Don't hose us on the trivia.
Eddie. We still remember the guy's name that did that. And he's dead to us. Dead to us. So, no, we've had so much fun having you guys as part of the show. So feel free to say hi and to take part. And I will not only put your chat on the screen as much as I can and run a show at the same time, but we'll also hopefully be able to give you a nice shout out during the episode. Okay. Doug, you ready to start?
Give me 10 minutes, Joe. I'll be good.
Okay,
in 10
deal.
Minutes. 3, 2, 1. Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and earlier this month was National 401k Day. Mom had us busy putting out all the Halloween decorations, so we totally missed it. But every day is a great day to work on your retirement plan. So today, we've invited a few of our friends to help you tweak the knobs on your retirement accounts. Plus, our year-long competition for the Trivia Challenge trophy is heating up. Can Jesse take first place? Can Paula continue her surge? We'll find out midway through this show with my incredible trivia question. And now, a guy who knows the best 401k strategy is part math, part patience, and part pretending you understand the HR memo about self-directed brokerage options. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Well, the good news, Doug, as you may know, is that self-directed brokerage option, if you actually have it, isn't a bad deal. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Stacky Benjamin Show Friday edition. Sit back and relax because we're going to have a good time today. And Doug, nothing you like better than saying the phrase tweaking your knobs. I know that's like one of
your knobs. It evokes so many great memories, Joe. I almost had childhood memories, and I'm like, that'll get us banned.
I gotta work not to make that my segue. You know how I do? And now somebody who loves tweaking their knobs like that, I gotta not do it. Just not do it. So let's just send this over to our good friend who also last week was my co-MC kicking off FinCon.
Yes.
The Paula Pant from Afford Anything's here. We had a great time, did we?
We survived. We did it. We had a great. Can we tell them what our whole shtick was?
Yes.
Now that it's happened, can we?
Now that it's already over.
Now that it's already over, can we make the big reveal? So
let's do it.
This was your brilliance. You had
stop. Say that again. What was that?
Doug's friend's brilliance.
Perfect. There we go. I love that guy.
So Jeff Foxworthy has the whole "you might be a redneck if," and so Joe, you came up with the shtick of "you might be a money nerd if."
And we got some good ones. What was your favorite one, Paula?
Stop. This is going to get off the hook quickly. I can't handle this level of humor. I'm on medication.
You will love these, Doug. You will love these.
If you rebalance your portfolio when you balance your checkbook on a Saturday night.
You might be a money nerd.
Oh my God.
Doug, if your favorite four-letter word is Roth, you might be a money nerd. He's got to stop.
Who comes up with this stuff?
What's the other one?
God.
If you get up early to check the markets. Oh, stay up late. That's right. If you stay up late to check the markets in Asia, you might be a money nerd.
Yeah,
come on, Doug. Yes. No. There's always one that's not funny. I like this one.
Give you that one.
If you go to a dinner party and you say, but that's not a real diversification strategy, you might not be a money nerd, which is followed by, and if you get invited back, your friends are money nerds. It's fantastic. Those are great, Doug. Come on.
If you ask someone for their number and they give you their credit
score. Well, let's invite another nerd who is in upstate New York right now, where he is finally just in time for fall, experiencing summer. Oh, it's Mr. Jesse Cramer. Is that?
I didn't think I was. It is. It is. I didn't think I was going to be in the frame. And also, I just want to say, when Doug was doing the intro, I took some notes.
Tweak the knobs.
I was taking notes of what Doug was saying, what I could bring. I mean, Doug, it stuck out like a sore.
It was knob. Right there. Right there. How are you, Mr. Cramer, here in the first week of fall and also first week of summer for you guys up there in Rochester, New York?
Yeah, things are going well. It was awesome seeing you guys out in Portland. The jokes hit harder with the audience than they just hit with Doug. So I think we're all feeling good, you know.
And Jesse, we had a great meetup, and we can't tell people if Paula was there or not. So
big surprise. Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
You had to be there to know if Paula was there. But somebody who's at FinCon every year and is one of our BFFs, and we're super happy she's back on the show. The woman behind the Milmo Show, the Military Money Show, Lacey Langford's here. How are you, Lacey?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Just trying to stay away from Doug tweaking his knobs.
Me too. Ditto.
So for the 3 people out there that don't know about the Milmo Show, tell everybody what awesomeness you do on a weekly basis.
Yes, I help the military community make, save, and invest money wisely. So that's my show. It's all about the military community, helping them with money and entrepreneurship, because that falls into the make component of money, and making money is sometimes a struggle in our community with military spouses. There's a lot of underemployment. So those are the things that I cover on my show, but it's near and dear to my heart.
Underemployment because families move so often.
Yes, and you could, have a PhD, but be working, at a grocery store. So you're definitely underemployed, but that's what's available in your area. So you're not always aligning your expertise and your experience with the perfect job. It's often like, if you want to work, these are your options.
Is it a struggle getting our youngest military members to learn to save?
Yes, but I think that applies to all youth. That's one thing I try to remember and tell people, is that the majority of the military is under the age of 24. And so that's who we're dealing with. And a lot of teenagers and don't have as much responsibility, especially in the military. They're making a steady paycheck. Their medical's covered. There's, a roof over their head, food on the table. So sometimes it is hard to get them to see, no. In the future, you're really going to need this money. So I'm always harping on you're saving money for 2 people, for yourself and for your 80-year-old self. And you got to put some of it away now for the quality of life for your 80-year-old self.
Well, as everybody here knows, our longest sponsor is our longest sponsor for a reason, Navy Federal, because we love helping our military members. We're super happy that you do, Lacey. And man, if you're anybody in the military community, Lacey's show is not only something that will help you get ahead. Lacey happens to be just slightly funny, like just slightly.
Just a scooch.
Yeah, AKA, I can't. In fact, this is how funny Lacey is. We did a comedy club tour a few years ago, and the sponsor of the tour decided Lacey had to go to all the different, had to go to Kansas City because Lacey was so damn funny. So Lacey, no pressure, but you got to bring it today to make up for all of us. So
speaking of funny, I'm a little rusty, and I totally forgot that this is live.
Well, welcome. Yes, we've got a few stackers hanging out with us so far. We started early today. Dan is here. B is here. And they're the ones that have chatted so far. So come say hi to us. Monday afternoons, we're normally here recording the Friday shows. So come on out. If you get the 201 newsletter, you'll know when we go live. But enough of that. We're talking 401ks because earlier in the month, it was 401k day and we totally missed it. So better late than never. I think, Doug, you hit it on the nail on the head. Every day should be 401k day. So whether you have a 401k, 403b, a different type of retirement plan, let's dive in today. Paula?
Can I just suggest we didn't miss it. We're just 11 and a half months early for the next one.
We are.
Right?
We are. This is why Paula sat in the front row all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school.
Glass half full. Glass half full.
Yes.
We're 11 and a half months early for next year's 401k day.
So Paula's here, keeping us on the straight and narrow. Lacey's here. Jesse's here. Doug and I. In just a second, we're going to talk 401ks, but we have a couple sponsors to make sure we can keep on keeping on, and you don't pay a dime for any of this. So we're going to hear from them, and then we're going to help you do better with your 401k. Doug, did you grunt?
I did. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not going to indicate why that grunt was necessary, but I did.
That was just a microphone adjustment. Which, by the way, Steve, if Steve's listening right now, I apologize. That was me last time we recorded.
You were all over the map with that thing, man.
It was me dragging. It was me dragging, and then the reverberations coming up through the microphone. I won't do it again.
But isn't it wild how just the littlest thing? Yeah. All right, here we go.
Tweaking those knobs.
3, 2, 1. All right, guys, 401k day a couple of weeks ago, but you know what? That's not going to stop us. We're going to help people, as you said, Paula, get on the straight and narrow for next year ahead of time, because you can show up and you've already done all the hard work. But I thought it'd be best to go over 4 of the common mistakes that we see people make. And the first one, Paula, since I already mentioned your name, let's start with you. Not knowing the employer match, I think, might be the cardinal sin. You think there's any sin that comes before that one?
You know, not getting the employer match would probably be a bigger one than not knowing the employer match, because as long as you're getting the full employer match, you can always look back through your records years later and figure out, hey, what was that anyway?
Yeah. It is so frustrating when I hear people go, yeah, I don't want to give any money to my company. This is a thing, Jesse. I was going to call on Lacey, but I'm like, Lacey, most of your audience knows exactly who they're employed by. But Jesse, you must have heard, like I've heard in the past, people go, I don't want to give any money to my company. Like people thinking that this is like somehow your HR director is putting the money in their pocket for a few weeks before it goes in your 401k is a big misnomer.
Right. Just right. A fundamental understanding of whether the 401k plan even exists in the first place, like whether there is this employer sponsored plan, the fact that is a benefit that you as the employee just purely get to benefit from. Not that we have to go into the weeds, because there are things out there. I mean, like the 457 plan.
457, yeah.
Right. My understanding is I'm pretty sure those assets actually do end up on the company balance sheet, which is kind of unique.
Yeah.
But that's so in the weeds. But the whole point is that some individuals out there are just completely unaware of what benefits are out there for them, whether it's 401k specific or just other financial benefits in life, employer related benefits. And so, educating yourself on that is a great first step.
It totally is a great first step. Lacey, besides just the company match, I mean, your military members, they get the thrift savings plan. We're going to talk about fees later, but that's a hell of a retirement plan that I see people not take advantage of.
Yes. Well, the military has taken with the new blended retirement system. So it's the new, retirement system for the military. Now they automatically sign you up for the TSP, which is the military's version of a 401k. But I was going to say a mistake that I see people make is that they opt out. So they get it set up automatically. Once they pass 2 years, they're getting automatic contributions up to 5%. After a little bit, you automatically get 1%. You don't even have to contribute. But if you're contributing 5%, you're going to get a matching total of 5%. Fabulous. But a lot of people go in and turn that off, whether that's, they want more money to go out every weekend. They want to get a new truck, whatever the reason, they end up doing that. But I feel like that's a huge mistake.
Is there ever, guys, Paul, is there ever a good reason to not do the 401k match? And I waited till your mouth was full to ask you this question.
Sorry, give me a moment. I'm chewing.
I got halfway through asking.
We're clearly a priority for her right now.
We don't want her to get low blood sugar.
I would say,
you know how much the ratings would go up if Paula just like passes out in the middle of the show?
Do it for the ratings, Joe. I do it for the ratings. Um, I would say when it comes to specifically the match, I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't get the match, because even if you have debt, let's say you've got credit card debt, or some other high interest form of debt, that interest rate, maybe it's 25%, maybe it's 30%, but if a match is 50%, or if a match is dollar for dollar, that match percentage that you're getting is actually higher than the interest rate that you're paying on your debt. So even in the case that you have credit card debt, high interest credit card debt, it still makes sense to get the maximum match.
Even at a 25% match, it still equals most credit card debt. And so assuming at some point the credit card debt goes bye-bye, like you're still equal it. I can't, Jesse or Lacey, can you guys think of a reason why somebody should forego the match?
I mean, just some food for thought on that last line of thinking is like, depending on the size of someone's credit card debt, if someone has enough credit card debt that it's going to take them years to pay down, you could make the argument to say, well, do you want this one-time 50% 401k match, or do you want to pay down this credit card debt that's going to accrue against you at 25% per year for the next X years? And that might weigh the scales a little bit differently. But as far as someone who just shouldn't take advantage of their 401k match at all, I would think it's only the person who is in such dire straits that they need every little dollar of earned income they possibly can to put food on their kids' table, put clothes on their kids' back. And even that 5% deferral into their 401k is the difference between some of those really, really basic human needs being met. But outside of that, I mean, like to Paula's point, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% that you have extra, it's got to go to either that 401k match or maybe some corner cases to a high interest credit card. That'd be my 2 cents.
Can I jump in and add to Jesse's 2, Joe?
Sure.
I almost want to challenge what you said, Jesse, a little bit, because
bring it on, Doug.
The vast majority, you loser. I think the vast majority of people who are in a position, in a role, in a job that have a 401k available to them probably have that 5% to give and don't think they do. In other words, like I didn't like hearing you give them the out, because I think there's a lot of people who think, yeah, man, I need every single penny and I can't afford. But I bet you can. I bet you can find a way to adjust a streaming service, adjust a cell phone plan or something so that you can find that 5% to put it into your 401k. So I didn't like hearing you give them the excuse, because I'm willing to bet most people who have a job that has a 401k means they probably make enough that they can adjust a couple of those things that we think are necessities, but there's probably some wiggle room in a couple of those necessities to give them.
You had 2 of them?
Yeah. I think what we just saw was the difference between empathy and cynicism.
Right there.
Because I think
right there.
No, I think you're right. I mean, Doug, I would wager that 97% of people who fit my criteria, really what they're saying is, I need the new iPhone 17. And in order to do that, I'm going to turn off my 401k distribution or contributions this month. And we all agree that's not a smart financial move.
Right.
I don't think there's as many people saying that, though, Jesse, as you hear talking heads all the time talk about that. I don't think there's that many people that are cutting their 401k to buy the new iPhone. But back to you, Jesse.
Joe, I think it's never like a 1-to-1 ratio like that for a specific luxury. I think it's this little bit of lifestyle creep that happens. And you've got per month, you've got $5 over here and $12 there. And it adds up to, call it, $250 a month that you probably could redistribute. But you don't make that 1-to-1 ratio of, I want the new iPhone. It's all the other little stuff that's killing you.
B hanging out with us on YouTube is on Team Doug, says cynicism rules. So we should just be cynical about each other. I swear to God, if you're online, I think that's the rule, isn't it?
All right.
All cynical all the time. Lacey, you coach people, I know, on their money. Like if somebody tells you they don't have enough money to contribute to the TSP or a 401k, 403b, 457, whatever it might be, what do you look at to, like, how do you help them wring some money out, find the money so that they can get at least up to the match?
Yes, I feel like I'm right between Doug and Jesse. That I do think sometimes there are situations where, especially in my community, there's you might have an 18-year-old that has 5 kids that is just enlisted in the military, so they're not making $3,000 a month, so they are really stretched thin. But to Doug's point, it's like, okay, now how are you spending that money that you have? So when I look at that, it's looking at their bank statements to see the past history and highlighting that. And then a lot of times when it's really narrow like that, I'm more focused on how you're going to bring in some extra money, whether that, and when it's dire, it's like, do you want to donate plasma? Can you sell something? Can you take on a side hustle? Something like that. But I would rather them do that for their future self, especially if they have some type of debt. I'm like, to get that match, you're going to need to get a side hustle in order to make sure you're paying down your debt. So that way you don't have to stop saving for your future. So I think it's everything in money is, it depends on the person, their situation. But it would be very extreme where I would say like, oh yeah, don't give money for your TSP or your 401k, especially for military spouses. They have 401ks, or I'm a big fan of military spouses saving for their own retirement with an IRA. So I'm like, find the money. But you have to put you have to be congruent with what you're saying. If you want these things in the future, then your actions need to align with that.
100%. It's so interesting. Back when I was a financial planner, I would tell people, just try it. Let's just try it. And what's cool is we can go back to HR and we can turn it back down later. And the number of people that ever came back to me to turn it back down? Not one, ever. So I think a lot of times, Doug, you're 100% right. People think I don't have the money. And then when it's just taken away before the paycheck gets there, they totally do. But the good news is, you could be the person. So let's just try it and see if it works. The second sin I want to talk about before the midway point of today's show is investing without a strategy. I feel like, Paula, a lot of times people, they get signed up for the 401k. And how many times have you heard this? Oh my goodness, they sign me up automatically. So I'm like, that cool. I don't have to do that. And then they find out like a year and a half later, my money's been sitting in cash the entire time.
I literally just went to dinner with a friend on Saturday night who told me that the money in, I think it was Roth IRA, or it was some retirement account. I don't remember specifically what kind of account, but she had money in a retirement account that she just realized was sitting in cash. And
Wow.
she, for years, has not known this.
But it's great when you find out. I mean, you can sit around and go, oh man, I should have, but that doesn't help. Like the fact that she knows now is pretty great.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, is so much of financial education is learning through the school of hard knocks, right? Unfortunately, like most of us don't have financial education when we're kids. And so a lot of adulthood is simply learning through trial and error, learning through making mistakes. And frankly, if you're going to learn an expensive lesson, wouldn't you rather do it in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, rather than learn an expensive lesson in your 80s, when you don't have that time to recover?
That's funny. I like that from a teaching perspective too, just making yourself older and going, okay, what if I was at this age and I didn't know, and I had done nothing.
Right.
Lacey, how do we do this? Our average stacker wants to feel confident that they're making like the right financial move, but you've seen all the different options that people can do. Heck, the TSP is pretty straightforward. Luckily, there's not a ton of options, but you look at some of these 401ks or even an IRA out there, like you can choose anything. Like, how do you feel confident you're making the right move and not overcomplicate it when you're starting out?
Yeah, I think you have to more make a move than not make a move, but it can be difficult because there are so many options. You're right, and the TSP aren't as many, but it's a big struggle for military spouses. And I think you have to do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of research, read the material. I think that if that's given to you, you may not understand everything, but starting to get familiar with it, not looking at it isn't an option, because then it's just an excuse like, oh, I didn't know. But you could start to understand it. And to your point earlier, you could do something and you can always go back and change that. As long as you're not taking money out or stopping your contributions, you can change what you're investing your money in. So don't think of it as forever. Like, try a plan, try something and see if it's working. reevaluate it, don't set it and forget it, and then change it if it needs to be.
What do you think the first concept is people need to know?
With picking
Investing.
something,
Yeah, with
oh,
picking
I think
something.
for me, I think it's risk tolerance, especially if you're in a relationship. You're understanding somebody, might be fine with just going to laying $100 on red versus somebody else. It's like, no way, I don't even want to gamble. So understanding where you sit in that, how comfortable you are with a punch in the stomach with money is really important. And so then you can determine, all right, I'm going to try something that has a little bit lower risk so I can sleep at night and get used to this. Then you can amp it up a little bit.
That's interesting because Jesse, Lacey goes to kind of stocks, right? Can be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And yet for me, it's funny, Lacey, when you were talking, I was thinking that the first thing might be this idea of diversification. So I know even if I am all in stocks, like the chance of losing my money is not high. Jesse, what do you think the first thing is to know about getting your strategy together?
It's a tough one. The first thing to know about getting your strategy together, because I like, so I mean, Lacey touched on the subjective nature of risk tolerance, right? About that feeling of like, do I want to put my money at risk? Am I okay taking this ostensible gamble? And that, so my framework, I think this comes from the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analyst framework.
Yeah.
They talk about need, ability, and willingness. So willingness to take risk is that very same subjective thought process of like, can I stomach this risk? Will I be able to sleep at night with this in my portfolio? The need and the ability part are much more objective numbers that kind of go back to someone's financial plan and what are your long-term goals and how much time do you have to get to those goals and how much risk numerically, how much volatility can you afford to suffer and how much risk can you take to still reach your goals on time. And I know that's a lot for someone to get into, if this is day one of your 401k plan, that's a lot to think about. And a lot of people maybe don't feel that like drive inside them to think about that. But my own story is, after like 3 or 4 years of 401k contributions at my first job, where maybe I'm contributing 5 or 6K a year or 10K a year, I'm getting a little bit of a company match and there's market growth. It's like, next thing you know, I've got $80,000 in a 401k. And I realized, boy, if I don't learn what I'm doing here, I'm going to make some 5-figure mistake. So I think for some people, it takes that amount of that realization that they have some serious skin in the game to, like we've said a few times now, actually realize, oh, I need to learn this. And if I need to make changes now that I'm 2 or 3 or 5 years in, I still can make those changes.
That always drives me crazy when people say, well, they can't be bothered to learn about the stock market. I'm like, how are you actually going to get to retirement then? Like, what are you going to do? I mean, don't get me wrong. You could figure out about real estate, but generally those people are not knowing about the stock market because they don't know anything about real estate. They just don't want to be bothered to think about investing at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the devil's advocate argument is that to the outsider who's unaware of what's going on or all they've ever seen is, my uncle on CNBC with his sound effects, maybe they think the stock market is a casino and they don't like casinos, right? Yeah, exactly. Wham. So anyway, it takes a lot of education, doesn't it, to convince yourself that, just like you said, Joe, a diversified portfolio over the long run, it's hard to find it's hard to find a circumstance where that loses money over a multi-decade period. But it takes some serious education to get to that point where you've internalized that understanding.
But it's funny, Paula, I get what Jesse's saying, but does it really take that much education? Because and I don't know if maybe I've been in this field too long, but I think that Wall Street wants you to think it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there who get paid a lot of money to have you think it's complicated. And yet I remember drawing stuff on a whiteboard about diversification and people get it in about 34 seconds.
Yeah. So I agree with you. And also there's an expression that expertise is the ability to both deep dive and simplify. And so I think that to a certain extent, you have to learn a lot in order to understand how little you actually had to learn.
I gotta process that.
Because there's so many, for example, there are so many questions in which the answer is, it depends.
Oh, right. Right.
How should I what mix of asset classes should I have in my portfolio? Well, it depends.
Yes.
There's so many questions around that. Between a tax deferred, tax exempt, and taxable account, how much money should I have in each? Well, it depends. And so I think that you have to, because of the fact that you have all of these questions that fork off into different branches, and it can get complicated, especially if you're a beginner and you're just learning all of this stuff for the first time. I think first you have to learn this big body of knowledge, and once you've learned it, you can kind of sit back and go, wait a second, if I really simplify all of this down to its root, the root is actually quite simple. So I think you need to be able to deep dive in order to be able to simplify.
That is always my first question. I get what you're saying now. And that's always my first question when somebody says it depends.
Mhm.
And I know that's the right answer. But then my next question is always, why does it depend? Like, why? And if somebody ever tells you that it depends, I think that's the first thing you got to ask is why. Because and not being, mean. I just need to know why it depends. Like, what are the factors that it depends on? Because I don't know, I've been in a room with a lot of financial people that I feel like are obfuscating the truth by telling me that it depends. And I'm like, but when people give me it depends, and here's what I mean by that. If you're doing this, then this applies. And if you're doing this, then this applies. And that decision tree, just knowing what the decision tree looks like, helps me just a ton. Just helps me a ton. Lacey, I got a question for you. So if people, whether it is complicated or not, people perceive this as complicated, and especially people that are reticent to invest consider it complicated. Is this where the target date fund comes in?
Absolutely. That's the off ramp for a lot of people is I don't have to go here. I can get off here and it's easy and I can understand that somebody else is kind of taking that over. But I think that you should still understand it. A lot of people just pick that because everything, it's reducing risk and it's kind of managed on its own for you. But going back to risk tolerance or other factors, those might not be a good fit for you. So I do think that you need to understand it. In the TSP, they call them life cycle funds, and it you just don't know, especially in the military community, how long you're going to be staying in the military, if you're, going to be taking a government job and maybe still contributing to the TSP differently, but there's all these other factors. So I do think that you still need to understand it, but that's kind of the option for people like, oh, if you don't want to go there, then just put it in here. And I don't think that people should do that. If they choose that, then that's good, but they should understand what a target date fund is before they do it.
Is there a B in that word? Isn't it called government? No? Maybe I got that wrong. The Jesse, Jesse, I can see Lacey's point about the target date fund for people just starting out. Not my preferred choice, but I can see people choosing that. And then I love Lacey's point, and then I learn, what about people that go, you know what, target date fund for the long term? I'm not a fan of that, but are you a fan of that?
Yeah. Well, I think this is a really good example, Joe, of the reason why you want to continue learning about this stuff. And the reason why maybe something that you learned 10 years ago isn't as applicable today as you once thought it was. And in other words, it's not that the stuff has to be overly complicated. It's just that maybe it changes over time, or it's simple to understand. It's just not necessarily easy to always implement. Like, it's simple to understand the idea that a diversified stock portfolio provides these great returns over time. It's not easy to live through a 40% drop in the market and then stay the course. And with target date funds in particular, literally 2 weeks ago, I went through and read a summary of this one like 80-page academic article that's kind of out of control in how long it is, but it's about the inefficiencies of target date funds and about some of the, whether it's just fee drag because they're charging you 40 basis points instead of 10 basis points like an index fund, or the fact that some of these target date fund, not custodians, but fund managers, like pack suboptimal mutual funds into the target date fund to ensure that those mutual funds still getting new dollars plowed into them. And that leads to underperformance over the long run. So these are things, I see you nodding, Joe, that you probably, this might be why you're not a fan of a target date fund in the first place. But
yeah, there's this crazy white paper called Stacked that people can get, which walks through the same stuff. It's weird.
But I'll admit, like, up until recently, it's not like I knew those facts for myself. I'd just heard over the, call it the last 12 months, I'd heard people in the community being like, listen, you should really think twice about putting money into a target date fund. And so I guess going back to my point, your question was, would I recommend putting money in a target date fund? Listen, if you can construct a diversified portfolio inside a 401k using only asset specific funds, meaning like, here's my total market stock index fund for 8 basis points, and here's my total market bond index fund for 8 basis points. I would rather someone do that than lean on a target date fund. That's my answer.
Me too. But Paula, target date fund versus starting out somewhere else.
So my preference is target date fund largely for the simplicity, or just VTSAX, again, because of the simplicity, because I think that for so many beginners, complexity is the enemy of action, so get started, get in the door, like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, and you can always refine later.
Dan, I like what Dan says here online. If for somebody who's paralyzed and not investing at all, it was funny. He's writing this, Paula, the same time you're saying, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you're paralyzed, you're not going to do anything, then fine, target date fund, but I like VTSAX. I even think you could just go with like the S&P 500 if that's available.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When I say VTSAX, I mean that I don't mean specifically Vanguard, although I love Vanguard. I mean that as a proxy for any total stock market index fund.
And the problem with that, Lacey, is that then people have to recognize that diversification will make sure that you don't lose all your money, which is a thing that I think a problem that new investors have when they first start out.
Yes, absolutely. Because if they don't have that basic understanding, then they're not.
It feels too much like gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. It is the halfway point. We got a couple more things I want to talk about. I want to talk about fees and expenses, one of my favorite topics, and then overlooking plans extra features like the little quirks in your 401k. Doug mentioned one of those, the ability to have this brokerage account option, or choosing Roth versus traditional. We'll go into all those briefly, start people thinking about those. But at the halfway point of every Friday show, we have this amazing competition between our 3 frequent contributors, Paula Pant, Jesse Cramer, and OG and Lacey. That means you get to play for OG today. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Let's take the bad news.
Well, the bad news is you're going to have to guess first.
Oh, darn it.
I know it always frustrates me when somebody's nice enough to join us and then we have to have them lead the way. But Lacey, this isn't Lacey's first time on the show, so she knows. And the other bad news is that even though while you're winning, you have 11, you are not winning by as much as you have been because Jesse Cramer is at 10.5. So Jesse could take the lead today.
Did someone win on my behalf? Who won on my behalf? Who do I owe a cookie to?
Doug, who won on Jesse's behalf? Because I don't
Who the heck
remember.
was that?
That's a great
loser?
question, Jesse.
That is a great question. If only we could remember what happened last week, Jesse, that would be great.
Yeah, they're never being invited back. I can tell you that.
Yes. So you are half a point away, my friend. And then Paula, actually, that was 2 times ago because last time we were on, Paula won. Moving her to 7.5.
Was it Gillian Jonsrud?
It was Jillian Johnsrud.
Wow.
I was taking a little a partial retirement, a mini retirement, and she came in and won a point for me.
Yes, Jesse was retiring often when Jillian won. So we've got Jesse at 10.5, OG at 11, Paula at 7.5, and surging. Who's going to win this week? Well, Doug, we need a trivia question. What's on tap today?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I am so glad we delayed this basement-based celebration of retirement accounts because that just gives us a chance to combine it with my favorite misnamed holiday, Oktoberfest. Yes, every year in Munich, Germany, people who couldn't get into their local 401k festival instead head across the street to drown their sorrows in beer with thousands of their soon-to-be closest friends. I mean, get a couple of pints in you, and even the guy who rejects his company match looks pretty cool, right? Beer goggles are real, folks. Beer goggles are real. I've been both a victim and a beneficiary. but I digress. Here is today's question. Based on the number of liters in beer these lunatics downed in Munich in 2024 over 16 days at the official Oktoberfest celebration, how many Olympic-sized pools could this beer have filled instead of bellies? And later, porta potties. I'll be right back as soon as I tell the beer wench upstairs to fill my stein with a foamy beverage.
It's the circle of beer, Doug. The circle of beer.
Just
Olympic-sized pools. Lacey, you get to go first. Lucky you on this deal. So 16 days at Oktoberfest in Munich happening right now. How many, based on last year, how many Olympic-sized pools of beer would the amount they imbibe have filled up?
Over 16 days.
Over 16 days.
that's how long Oktoberfest is.
There's so much pressure. I don't want to let OG down. Wait, did it say how many liters they did last year?
We did not.
We did not.
So I just have to guess how many Olympic-sized swimming pools.
I actually know it's funny, and I'm actually proud of him for this. When Doug and I were coming up with this question, I told Doug how many liters when I was doing the draft of this question, and he almost nailed it. And
then Joe was like, well, if you almost nailed it, they definitely
We
will.
gotta make
we
this
can't
harder.
Tell them how many. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with 8.
8 swimming pools. Jesse, is that too many swimming pools or not enough?
I think that's a good guess. I'm jotting down like all my little math here, and my math gets me to 16 divided by 3. So I'm going to say 5 point. Do I have to use a whole number?
No.
Do I just use a whole number?
No. And the real answer is not a whole number.
So I'm going to say
Dude.
5.
It could be 0.0.
That's not fair. That is not
it could
fair.
be 0.0.
Well, I'm going to say
Oh my
5.3.
God.
That's not a whole number.
Can I say 5.3?
You could say 5.3, but it's
Okay.
5.0. No.
5.3 pools.
5.3. We've got 8 pools and 5.3 pools. Paula?
Well, okay. So I'll tell you what I actually think it is, and then I'll tell you my official guess. So when I heard the question, the little math that I did is this festival is 16 days long. So if you filled 5 Olympic-sized pools per day times 16 days, then it would be 80. So Lacey, when you said 8, I was like, oh, I was literally thinking an order of magnitude differently, an order of magnitude greater.
Wow.
So I'm going to take the over. So how many layers of fraction can I go? So 8.000001.
One spot. It could be 0.0, could be 0.1, could be 0.2.
Yeah, I'll go 8.000001.
We'll go 8.1.
8.1.
Yes. And Lacey, you should feel good about that because that would have happened either way. She was going to either take 8.1 or 7.9. So even if you'd said 8.1. All right. Unless 8.1 is the answer, then that would suck. So Lacey's at 8, Jesse at 5.3. Paula takes you over 8.1. She thinks it's actually 80. How many Olympic-sized pools is it? We'll find out in just a minute. All right, everybody online, if you guys want to guess too, everybody gets one guess. I'll send a copy of my book to the person online who's closest. If you get it in by the time that Doug answers it online. All right. So here we go. This is what you get, by the way, if you're not watching this live, because we have only a fraction of the people we had here last week and you missed out on the free book. So there you go. All right. 3, 2, 1. Lacey, you opened this up with 8. Jesse and Paula thinks that's way low, but Jesse thinks that it's a little less than that. What do you think? You feeling good? Lacey?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Jesse.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't sure either, Lacey. It's okay.
I'm not even
No.
sure.
No,
You want
I'm
me to-
not
Use a word
feeling
salad.
good. I am not feeling good. There's a lot of pressure to lose for somebody else or win for them. I'm going to
Yeah.
be optimistic, win. So I might have a shot. I might have a
Let,
shot.
let's go with win for them. Jesse, you feeling good?
I'm feeling okay. Olympic swimming pools are huge, and that is a lot of beer, but it's also a lot of people, and 16 days. Wow.
16 days,
I'm
a
still,
lot of
I'm
people.
feeling good. I'm feeling good.
I like it. If you've never been drinking with Paula Pant, you know what a can-do attitude she has.
Yeah. There's
So
a reason
Paula's like,
why
I think
she
it's
was
80.
thinking 80. So I know how much I can put down in a night multiplied by.
Well, because, okay, so I'm thinking, let's say the average person there might drink, if they're there all day, then maybe they'll have like 4 or 5 liters. Let's just say 5 liters for easy math. I don't know how many liters are in an Olympic-sized pool, and I also don't know how many people are there, but it seems like it would work out.
Well, once everybody logged in their answers, I told during the break everybody watching us online that they could also partake since they were nice enough to let you guys go first. And somebody's going to take home a copy of that white paper, Jesse, name stacked. This book CNN said was the best book on personal finance you should have read that year. But I digress. They now have their answers locked. Doug, you got the answer. Who's going home with the prize?
Hey there, stackers. I'm the local baron of beer and guy who just realized you called Joe's mom beer wench at your own peril. Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Munich, Germany, the place where millions of people last year downed 7 million liters of beer. 7 million. But that wasn't our question. Ours was, how many Olympic-sized swimming pools would this have filled? If you said, well, I'm not going to tell you. What I will say is it was 5.31 pools less than what Paula said, 5.3 less than what Lacey said, just 2.5 less than what Jesse said, because the correct answer is 2.8 Olympic swimming pools, making Jesse not only our winner, but our new leader in the clubhouse.
Someone pour me a beer.
Amazing.
And Lacey, not only were you wrong, but you also gave up OG's lead. And for that, we all thank you.
We thank you. All of us thank
Happy
you.
to help. Happy to
You're the
help.
real winner today.
Wow.
Doing your part. Well, you're not. Can you believe that? When I found out it was 2.8 swimming pools.
I thought it was 80.
I guessed 3. When we were doing this as
Wow.
a draft, I guessed 3.
Paula's like, I could do 80. I could do 3 by myself.
Well, my point is, like, if you come to Oktoberfest, like, you're ready to drink beer. So it's, you're not, you're all in. So I just
Yeah.
thought people would
Yeah.
be drinking more than their normal amount.
Jack hanging out with us on YouTube says, well, I guess I got to get over there and help them drink more beer.
I'm with
I'm
Jack.
curious, how many people do you guys think attend?
And how many liters are in an Olympic-sized pool?
We
So many
do
questions.
know. Doug, you can look that up for me, but we do have that number. How many people attend?
Yeah, my guess was 8 million at 2 liters per person, 16 million liters. And I don't know, for some reason I converted to kilograms before doing the division for the pools. I know.
What? And then I converted it to Celsius.
Yeah. I had to divide the distance of the sun.
Divide by 4, and there you go. Nice job, Jesse. Jesse
there
takes over the
were-
lead.
There were 7.2 million visitors. So
we
everybody
go.
on average drank a liter of beer.
Bunch of
What?
lightweights.
Wow.
It's oddly coincidental.
Well, one liter each, and they come in these 1 liter things.
Steins. Yeah.
Well, it's not Steins anymore. It's now MA, and it's that thing that looks like a B, but is pronounced
but it's
like
backwards.
yeah,
I think
whatever that thing is. We actually, Doug and I got in the weeds on this,
Mhm.
probably more than we should have. But let's get in the weeds.
Were you drinking beer at the time?
No, but we should have been. That would have been great, Doug. We need to celebrate the moment.
Then the question would have been less or more incomprehensible than it already was.
Then Doug would have even been calling me beer wench and you beer wench and everybody beer
Yeah.
wench. Let's talk about fees and hidden cost in IRAs and 401ks. Jesse, how big a point is this for investors to know about the 401k?
Yeah, it's a decent point. So my understanding is that like a really good proxy for the fees that you'll pay is just the size of your company and like the total number of employees, the total number of participants. And yeah, I mean, like all investing fees, like investing fees eat away at long-term returns, long-term performance. It kind of
Wait, but what do
compounds.
you mean by that? Do you mean the bigger the company is, the higher the fees are?
Yeah, sorry. The other way around. Yeah, if I probably didn't explain that clearly. Usually the bigger the company, the more negotiating power your company has with one of the big 401k custodians, and therefore you can negotiate lower fees.
Gotcha.
So when I
Small
worked at
company people.
my former employer had something like 60,000 employees nationally, and our fund fees in the 401k, like the index fund, the target date fund fees, those fees were like pretty typical that you would see if you just logged into Fidelity right now in your IRA. Like those usually don't change much, but then all the underlying, like the record keeping fee and the annual just because fee, like in some plans, those are like 0.5% or 0.75% or 1%. Whereas with my old company that was huge, I still remember it was 8 basis points. It was 0.08%.
Wow.
Yeah. And those do add up. Those do add up. And for what it's worth, those do make a difference sometimes when it's like, some people will ask, well, I work at a tiny company. The 401k fee, the total fee is like 1.1%. Should I invest in this to get the match? Or do the fees kind of eat away at the benefit of the match? And the answer is like, if you look at it for a long enough period of time, like that fee can eat away at any benefit you'll get from a match. So it's interesting. It's a very kind of nuancy and in the weeds topic, but once someone gets serious about this enough, it's worth understanding that.
Well, so let's go into that, Paula. Let's say that somebody works at a small company, and to Jesse's point, they have a high fee 401k. Mm-hmm. Is it better to invest outside of the 401k or to say, you know what, it's just high fees or nothing?
I would at a minimum get the match, because the average person stays at their job for, I don't know exactly what the current averages is in terms of number of years, but let's say 4 years, 5 years,
Yeah,
6 years.
the statistic I think 3 years ago was 4.2. So you're in the ballpark, I'm sure still.
Okay, cool. See, on certain things I can guess in the ballpark.
Give her a point.
I'm like, Paula, just say a number. You sound so credible. We would have believed any number you would have said. Just
the average person has 80
keep
different swimming pool jobs a year.
The average person at a pool maintenance company
drinks more than a liter of beer.
So yeah, okay. So the average person stays at their job for 4.2 years, which means that when you leave that job, you can remove your money from this high fee account and transfer it to a lower fee custodian.
That's it. It's interesting, Lacey, because sometimes, and you won't see this inside the TSP. I think the TSP is known for very low fees, isn't it?
Yes, like 0.036.
Yeah, just nothing. But when you're working with the spouses and establishing, maybe working on a 401k at a job that they have, the thing that always messed me up was when somebody at a really small company like Jesse's talking about works in one of these companies where it's an annuity. And even though the fee looks manageable, there's actually even more hidden fees on top of that. Like that's a pain in the ass trying to figure out like where your fees are actually being paid from.
Yes. And for many military spouses, they're not even getting jobs where they have an employer plan or they qualify for the employer match. So often they are contributing to an IRA, or many of military spouses have multiple 401ks laying around. And so to Paula's point, a lot of times that's my advice is you should be looking, if your newer one has lower fees, like rolling that over, getting them all together. Sometimes it's, it might, one or two of them might be good to stay where they're at because of the fees, but it starts to eat at it. And it's overwhelming for a lot of military spouses having multiple ones to look at and make that decision every year or every 2 years. But it's something that has to be done. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
I love that you said that because I saw that a lot too. People are like, oh, rolling this over seems like such a pain in the ass. I go, it's a bigger pain in the ass if you don't roll it over. Like it's a small time pain in the ass one time here for the next month or two for us to get this done. But then for the rest of your life, it's much better having it in one place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if it overwhelms you. A lot of times you're getting all of the information from those different plans, and it can be confusing and overwhelming. So sometimes for peace of mind, it's better to get them all together and get organized, so that way, the next move isn't so overwhelming with your employer benefits.
This brings up some of these plans' extra features that they have. Let's move into my last point of the day about these cool features, or maybe not so cool. One is, Doug mentioned this, Jesse, this brokerage account option, right? Where you might be able to move money over there. If your fund has high fees, does it make sense then to use this brokerage account, this side account, so you can go get a fund that has much lower fees?
I suppose so. I'm not like intimately familiar with those little side brokerage accounts. I do know from the ones that I'm aware of that they're kind of limited in size, for lack of a better term. Like the 401k plan usually puts a limit on how much of your 401k assets you can divert over into the side brokerage account, the sandbox.
Yeah.
Because I think the idea was like, oh, well, we still want most of your money to be in these approved funds within the plan, 15, 20, 25 funds that have been approved. But if you want a little sandbox, 5%, 10%, we'll allow you to do that. So if you have really high fund fees or just high plan fees, I'm not sure if that side brokerage account is a way out of it or not. My guess would be it's not.
Yeah, it's the biggest problem I saw and continue to see is that even if you move that little bit over, Jesse, that the you have to schedule it on your calendar because you can't contribute directly to it. I've never seen a plan where you can contribute directly. So you've got to continue to shovel money over there, which makes it even more complicated. Back to Lacey's point about it seems so complex to do all these things. You're just adding some complexity. But heck, if you get the ability to do that. Let's talk about a different aspect here, Paula. Somebody's signed up for the 401k, Roth versus traditional. Where do we go?
I mean, my bias is towards the Roth unless there is a compelling reason to do so otherwise, for a couple of reasons. Now, just to establish what a Roth is for anybody who might not be familiar, when you put money inside of a Roth account, you don't get a tax advantage that year, meaning you don't get to deduct that income from your taxes in that current year. But everything that you put in there, all the growth, all the dividends, the capital appreciation, everything is tax-free for life. So a Roth is a tax-exempt account. And in particular, the younger you are, the bigger of a benefit that is because your money has more time to grow, to compound. You think the rule of 72, which states that your money is going to double every, if it's at an 8% return, your money's going to double every 9 years. Well, if you're 30, all right, that money doubles when you're 39, and then when you're 48, and then if it just keeps doubling.
Yeah.
And all of that is totally tax free. So I think the Roth is unfortunately limited in our opportunities. Like there's a Roth IRA for people who are self-employed. Some people might be able to do a Roth 401k or a solo, if you're self-employed, a solo Roth 401k. But generally speaking, your opportunities to make Roth contributions are fairly curtailed. So if you do have the chance to do it, go for it.
Yeah, but that is definitely my bias too. Lacey, is your bias for people generally the Roth as well?
Yes, absolutely. Especially, and not to keep talking about the military community, but
No, well, that's who you know.
Yes, but in a very special group of people that when you deploy to a hazardous area, hostile fire, you do not pay federal income taxes. So we're a small group of people that can get away with contributing
Wow.
tax-free and then it growing and withdrawal tax-free. So
it's like HSA, but for any reason.
Yes. So, I mean, and you think at some points people are deploying for a year at a time. I mean, we're not quite that same ops tempo now, but that's a huge savings for people for their future. So often in the military community, that's the way to go.
Jesse, when it comes to Roth versus, are you okay?
Yeah. Yep. I was hoping you would call on me. That was my face. That was my call on me, Joe.
Did you have something specific you wanted to say before I called you?
Well, no, it's just that explanation that Lacey just gave. I loved it because the whole idea is the whole Roth versus traditional. To me, the biggest factor. There are a few different factors, but to me, the biggest factor is understanding the difference between the current tax rates you're paying, like your current tax bracket, versus what you might pay when you withdraw that money later. Because the compounding idea is like, yeah, your money's going to compound in a really nice way inside of a Roth or a traditional account, and it's going to be tax-free compounding either way. The question is, would you rather pay income tax now on the front end or income tax later on the back end? Lacey's example is awesome because if you can get away with contributing into a Roth account at 0% right now,
it's a win no matter what.
100%. You know for a fact that there's no way a traditional account could be better. But I had a stacker reach out to me today. She's 57. And part of her question had to do with Roth versus traditional. Now, I don't know enough about her to answer the question, but for the average 57-year-old, I might wager they're at the highest income earning years of their career. And for that reason, I would wonder, is that person going to have more income now as a working 57-year-old or 8 years from now when they retire at 65? And the answer might be they have more income now at age 57 than at 65. And therefore, they're paying higher taxes now at 57 than at 65. And therefore, they should contribute to a traditional account, not a Roth account. They should save the tax dollars today. That's my 2 cents. But I'm happy to be in the minority if that puts me in the minority.
Well, I actually think it's not, because Paula, you and I have kicked this around a lot, like a lot when we answer questions on Afford Anything. And I know that for you and I both, I think I can speak for you, that it's our bias, but still in Jesse's case that he's talking about, like, but I don't know about you. My standpoint is talk me out of it. Let's start with Roth and talk me out of it. And maybe for the 57-year-old, you just talk me out of it.
Possibly, but the other completely unknowable piece is 8 years from now, when that 57-year, we're going to assume that the 57-year-old wants to retire at 65. If that 57-year-old retires at the age of 65, 8 years from now, the unknowable piece is, what will taxes be like at that time? We're going to go through a couple of presidential administrations. We're going to go through a couple of cycles of congressional elections. We have no idea what this nation's governance is going to look like 8 years in the future, and therefore what our tax rates are going to look like at that time. So there's a little bit of probabilistic thinking that also goes into this. How much would you pay for the certainty of locking in today's rates?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question she brings up, Jesse. Do you take the certainty it's now and it can't get worse? Because I mean, unless they change the law, right?
Well, yeah, to some extent, I would say if I'm uncertain about what the tax rates are going to be, then I can either say I have absolutely zero idea, and I don't know the answer to any question about the future because I have no idea, or I say probably my best assumption is to assume they'll be similar in some way, shape, or form to current tax rates, and like that's the way that CFP curriculum is generally taught. Is you shouldn't predict what the future tax rates are going to be. You should assume they look similar to current tax rates. So then it becomes a question of, well, can I more accurately predict this individual's income? And that's where, for me, sitting here at age 35, do I know what my income is going to look like at age 60? That's pretty hard, 25 years in the future. But for a 57-year-old who might retire in the next decade, can I reasonably predict what their income situation is going to look like in retirement? Sure.
Possibly.
Social Security, right. Dividends and interest, withdrawals from the IRA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where you get to say, boy, if you're in your highest earning years, you're paying 35% marginal federal tax brackets right now. And based on everything you've told me, you would fit into the 22% tax bracket in retirement. Do I feel pretty confident about that 13% arbitrage I just described? I do. I mean, at least in the way I tend to work with people.
Let's talk about one more thing, Lacey, which is, and I don't know this. Does the military and our government employees have the ability to get into these automatic escalation plans where maybe you're putting in 5% this year and 6% next year, 7% the year after that?
No, not automatic, but they are changing some things. They're looking at actually because you can't contribute to your TSP after you leave military service, and they're
Yeah.
looking at if you retire from the military to change that. So I know they are trying to change some things, but it's very easy for people to do that on their own if they choose to do that. But no, it's not set up automatic. But there is something we were talking about earlier, like kind of these offshoot accounts. The TSP allows now set up a separate account for mutual funds, which wasn't an option before, but
Oh, wow.
but there's a special window for it. I will say there's a lot more expenses to it, so it's definitely not as cheap. And you have to have over $40,000. You have to at least contribute 10,000. So there are some things that are different, but not the escalating.
It's like a self-directed brokerage account where you can just buy a full slate of different funds.
Yes,
I,
with some
with
rules.
well, and it's funny, Lacey, because even as you say that, with a ton of funds, I like that idea, especially if you work for a smaller company. But if you've got the TSP, why the hell are you messing around with that? Like
Yes.
that drives me crazy. Oh, there's so many other things. Backdoor Roth IRAs using these after-tax contributions and then in-tax in-plan conversions, being able to do those, I think, is an important feature of the 401k. That's kind of 201. If you're somebody who can't do as much Roth as you want to do more Roth later, I will caution people. The one thing I don't like at all about 401ks is the ability to do just after-tax contributions. After-tax contributions are a mess. Pick either pre-tax or Roth. But if you're not going to do the mega backdoor Roth IRA where you're doing after-tax and then flipping it over to a Roth, do not load up on after-tax money in your 401k. Because you're going to create a tracking freaking nightmare for yourself later. And it drives me crazy that companies allow those. And I used to, when I was a planner, I'd see one person a year like, oh, I put all my money in after tax. I'm like, oh, it's going to stink so bad for you. Like it is so tough. Guys, great job today. Thank you so much for sharing with the Stacker community so much about the 401k. And I hope we helped a lot of people. Let's talk about, speaking of helping people, you guys help people on all the channels where you work. We'll have our guest of honor, Lacey, go last. So Jesse, what's going on at Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors, man?
Ooh, we just released our 9th AMA episode, or maybe we're about to release it, and then somewhere in there, depending on what day it comes out. And then soon, I'm actually changing the format. I'm going to start going to 3 episodes a month, which I'm pretty excited about. And one of them is going to be a really deep dive episode. And based on a couple really heartwarming questions I got from listeners, I'm going to do my first deep dive episode on financial planning with a special needs child.
Wow.
Pretty interesting niche topic. Yeah.
That's a niche topic and people that need a lot of help, because every time we touch on those topics, we get lots of people going, you know what, I wish you'd do that more. And much needed by that community. Paula, what's going on at the Afford Anything show?
So on the Afford Anything podcast, well, a few weeks ago, we had a guest who I know you also had, David Gardner, the CEO of The Motley Fool. But we did a deep dive interview, 90 minutes. So you can find that.
So if you like my half hour.
Yeah, exactly. You can hear 3 times that.
Yeah, we actually made David feel comfortable because I put on my Motley Fool jester cap, so then he put his on.
Really?
And we did the entire thing with our jester caps on. It was pretty fun.
That's fantastic. I did the opposite. I drank out of a VTSAX mug the whole time, just to make a point about index funds.
You drank 8 swimming pools worth of liquids.
Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid is what I did.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, David Gardner has been on the show recently. Dr. Daniel Crosby, who is a psychologist, he specializes in behavioral finance. He joins us on the show. Andy Hill, a good friend of both of ours, joins us on the Afford Anything podcast. Karsten Jeske, Big Earn, has joined us on the Afford Anything podcast. So those have all aired in the past couple of weeks.
Awesome. And you can find that at the Afford Anything podcast. Lacey, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. This was fun. I appreciate it.
And for cutting your shopping trip short.
Yes, anything for you. Anything.
Actually, we saved you money, Lacey.
That's true. You did. You did.
What could go wrong? So what's coming up at the Milmo show? What are you helping our military and military spouses with this week?
Yeah, so I just wrapped a special show, my birthday show, which I do every year with like something fun. This year I had my cousin on, who just also happens to be a trademark and patent attorney. And so we kind of did a deep dive in like the trademark issues that I had with my brand, and kind of broke down mistakes people make in the beginning, and things they should be aware of when trademarking their businesses. And then recently just did a show on, or getting ready to do a show on, how social media has messed up what people consider as being financially successful. It used to be like, hey, no debt, have a house, a car paid off. The basics were really great for people. And now it's like, if you're not taking your kids on a European vacation for 2 months, you're not financially successful. So I just do
taking selfies every minute.
Yes, but social media, you didn't used to know what all your neighbors spent their money on, or the people you went to church, or the people you were in high school with. But now all of a sudden you're keeping up with, their dinners and things like that. So that's a show. And then I also have one coming out about, for military spouses, starting a bookkeeping business for a side hustle, something that is PCS proof or that can move with them. So some really great shows coming.
Well, it's funny because when you said trademark attorney, I'm like, why do people need trademark attorney help? But then I went, oh, side hustle for military spouses, not side hustle, but people starting a business, and then you can be location independent. You can move along with your spouse and keep the business running.
But also a lot of active duty service members start a side hustle or starting a business. This is something they know they want to do after they leave the military, especially if they're separating, not retiring. So starting a business and doing it right. And then this also, each industry has their niche, and so using the same things, like every financial planner using an oak tree in their logo, like that's a problem. Like in the military, like everybody using
Right.
chevrons or American flags, things like that.
Every mechanic says they're ASE certified, to the point that I know what that means. You know what I mean?
Or podcasters having, the podcast mic in their logo, or, mechanics having a wrench in their logo, all these things. No,
you're cutting a little too close.
I have one too.
And that is at the Milmo show, and we'll link to that and Afford Anything. And look at that mug that Jesse Cramer at Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors has. That's a very nice Stacking Benjamin's mug.
It is nice.
All available where finer podcasts are available, and you'll find them at our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. That's going to do it for today, Stackers. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Doug, you got it from here, man. What should we have learned on today's show?
Well, Joe, first, like Lacey said, if you're in the military, be sure to opt out of that TSP as soon as you can. You don't want the government to use your money for evil and buy any more MREs than it already does.
I think that's
pretty much what you said, right? I think I nailed it.
But they're trying to get the M&Ms. That's what they're doing.
Second, don't forget what Paula said about high-fee 401k plans. Don't let that prevent you from participating, because on average, you're going to get canned. I mean, you'll be at your next job in about 4.2 years, which will give you a chance to transfer your balance to a lower-cost plan. But the big lesson, whether it's beer or your 401k, you don't want to chug it all at once. Pace yourself. Keep filling the glass, and you'll have plenty left for the closing ceremonies.
Wait a minute. Did you just have a big idea that made sense? Like, how long has it been since we've had a big idea that actually...
Something was off there. It didn't feel right. I threw up in my mouth a little bit. Yeah. Thanks to Lacey Langford for joining us today. Check out her incredible podcast called The Milmo Show, where they use interpretive dance and slam poetry to help you learn about investing while you're in the military.
And not at all.
We'll also include, I can't look at her. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. And thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, where she speaks only in polysyllabic words for an hour straight. You'll find that show wherever you listen to super intelligent podcasts. And finally, thanks to the Jesse Cramer for joining us today. He's like, oh, what's he going to say about
Bring
me?
it on.
You'll find Jesse's hit podcast, P-Fly, Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors, right between the Kit Kats and the Snickers bars at Walmart checkout counters everywhere. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com.
Guys, you guys have time to answer a couple quick questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the after show. We got some great interactions at the end of the show. Everybody wondering about fees and old 401ks and things like that. Ingrid asks, is there a database where you can find old 401k plans? Do you guys know any place to go?
Like Found Money?
Right.
Like they lost it? Yeah, every state has their own.
I thought you
but
cool retro ones from the 90s.
I think what I would do, Ingrid, is I would start off with just your old 401ks. And if you have not rolled them over to a separate IRA, then just in case the company still has some money there for you, even if you didn't contribute, I might just call that company, call their HR department and see if you can see if there's any money there for you. I would actually go back through the companies that you work for. I don't know of a database either. Yeah. Jesse?
I was going to say, I think retirement plans have to file a form 5500 with the Department of Labor. So like what I'm thinking of right now is like, yeah, if the company still exists, go call your old HR department. But what about for like a defunct company that no longer exists?
Yeah, then I think it's going to go to the state.
Yeah. I mean, and the short answer is there definitely are ways to reclaim that money and have your social security number handy, because that's going to be the way they identify your ownership of the account.
Aaron has a self-directed brokerage account as part of his 401k. So he can put, Jesse, more money than just that little bit. He can put bunches of money in. And generally these, if you've got that type of company, Aaron, I bet you work for a big company if you got that type of a benefit, because I see that much more often there. But he can move money over. And he says his main 401k funds charge a 0.35% expense ratio. The self-directed brokerage account costs $12 a quarter, but that seems fairly cheap. It depends if you've got $12 in there, Aaron. It's not cheap. It all depends on the amount, right? But that gives them access to the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, which has a expense ratio of 0.03. So I think it's a matter of scale, whether that's good or not. But then again, the problem you have, Aaron, is that you have to, I don't think you can contribute directly to the self-directed brokerage account. You have to like quarterly move money over to do that. And then the question is like, what's the method to do that? Anybody else got anything to say about that one?
No.
Jesse also says, or not Jesse, Eddie
Close.
hanging out with us. Yes. Jesse says, Jesse's cousin Eddie says, the government's always going to get on its share with traditional IRA. And that is the truth. Who is that, Doug? Ed Slott, when he was on our show, always says, you know, your uncle in Washington, you're going to share all that money with. And then he always leans into his mic and goes, and he's not even your real uncle. So, which I find endearing
cool uncle
from Ed. But Eddie says something interesting. I did want to talk about. Taxes always go in one direction, up, which if you look at tax rates currently, Eddie, they're actually pretty damn low compared to if you go back to like the 1970s, like we are at very low interest rates, which is why, again, when we talk to tax experts, they always tell me you should expect, Eddie, what you're talking about. You should expect them to go higher. Do you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I'm fine with what you just explained, Joe. If I could speak without stuttering, I'm fine with what you explained. I would actually argue with Eddie's first point. The government is always going to get its share with a traditional IRA. Well, unless you're one of Lacey's special corner cases where a Roth IRA you could contribute to that at a 0% tax rate. The government's going to get its share always with Roth contributions because it's getting its share up front. And then, yes, I know for most retirees out there, eventually RMDs will kick in and any traditional IRA distribution will be a taxable event. But you can certainly do a lot of smart tax planning later on in your life to make sure those taxable events are at the 0, 10, and 12% tax brackets. So all I'm saying is like, again, I don't think there's any sort of magic beans with Roth accounts, especially when it comes to tax avoidance. It's just my 2 cents.
Sounds like we just have to have we have to have a Roth versus traditional cage match.
Maybe. I just spent a lot
episode.
of time talking about this stuff. I spent a lot of time with, whether it's in my day job, on the podcasting and the blog, like working in the spreadsheets, crunching the numbers on Roth versus traditional. And this idea that, you know, a traditional IRA is by default worse because a tax bill is coming later with it. It's like, show me the math and I'll believe you. But I've seen a lot of the math that it depends on the person and their own tax rates.
I just think it's worse because you like it better.
That's fair. I get it. I will be the heel for this podcast. I will take that mantle from OG.
Thanks for your questions, guys. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you next time.